All right, switching gears, a controversy continues to unfold on Capitol Hill this morning surrounding Attorney General pick Matt Gaetz. The House Ethics Committee should be meeting right now to decide whether they want to release its report detailing the investigation into allegations of sexual misconduct and drug use against the former congressman. Sources tell CBS News that 4 women testified to the alleged misconduct. The committee's top Democrat, Susan Wild, had this to say ahead of today's meeting. Take a listen.
It absolutely should be released to the public, and it should certainly be released to the Senate, and I think it should be released to the public as we have done with many other investigative reports in the past. There is precedent for releasing even after a member has resigned.
Now, meanwhile, House Speaker Mike Johnson cautioned against releasing the report because, quote, it would be a Pandora's box. Gaetz has denied any wrongdoing and says the allegations are, quote, part of a smear campaign. And happening right now, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance meeting with Republican senators to shore up their support for intended cabinet nominees Matt Gaetz and Pete Hegseth. Both Gaetz and Hegseth are present in those meetings. And Senator Lindsey Graham gave a statement following his time with the group, and he said, quote, my record is clear. I tend to defer to presidential cabinet choices unless the evidence suggests disqualification. I fear the process surrounding the Gaetz nomination is turning into an angry mob, and unverified allegations are being treated as if they are true. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane keeping tabs on all of this on Capitol Hill today. Scott, thanks for being with us. How much pressure is the committee under to release this ethics report to the Senate?
It's under a lot of scrutiny, and we'll see how they carry that. But the House Ethics Committee always necessarily meets in private. This is a secret meeting behind closed doors, the results of which they could tell us, the results of which they may tell us nothing. So the pressure is difficult to measure because we can't find out what's happening behind closed doors. If there's going to be a release of this report into the investigation of Matt Gaetz, it will have to be by a majority consent inside the House Ethics Committee, which is a tricky thing always, because this is one of the only, if not the only, panel in legislative business across America that has an even split of Democrats and Republicans. There's 5 of each. One party has to join the other for there to be a majority and for them to take action. In this politically charged moment, on this politically charged issue, it's unclear if there'll be a majority to release this report. So what's pushing them against it? Well, Matt Gaetz is no longer a congressman. He's former Congressman Gaetz, which means this ethics committee loses its jurisdiction over him. And often in the past, as soon as somebody leaves the Congress, the ethics committee folds up its tent and shelves their investigation of said person. This is different. He's a likely nominee. He's a designee to be the Attorney General of the United States for the next president. There's pressure, I suppose, on this committee. We'll just find out whether it works or not.
Yeah. And Scott, Vice President-elect J.D. Vance is on Capitol Hill today with Matt Gaetz and Pete Hegseth. The group plans to sit down with a number of Republican senators we know. They already met with Senator Lindsey Graham. What are you hearing about those meetings?
Yeah, about a half dozen meetings have been concluded before the afternoon began here in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of business going on at the Capitol today, but make no mistake, this is Matt Gaetz Day. The House has an ethics committee reviewing him. The Senate is taking meetings with Matt Gaetz. He so far has met with people I'd characterize as pretty ardent Trump allies, senators who often have President-elect Trump's back and may not be the softest when it comes to Matt Gaetz's nomination. Let's see as the week continues if he takes meetings with some of the senators who've been a little bit more outright with their concerns, forthright with their concerns. Senator Susan Collins today said she remains shocked that Matt Gaetz was picked. Susan Collins is a Republican, and they can afford to lose only 3 Republican votes and get Matt Gaetz through confirmation. This is going to be an impactful week, if not a pivotal one, for Matt Gaetz's future.
And Scott, as you mentioned, there's a lot going on Capitol Hill today, and you continue to follow the crucial FEMA hearing also happening this week. What's the latest there?
Oh, by the way, the Biden administration wants $100 billion for all the disaster victims across the country. From North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, the hurricane victims, the wildfire victims, those impacted by issues earlier this year. The Senate has a hearing trying to get this thing through, get this money out the door. It was needed weeks or months ago by a lot of these victims. But as it stands right now, the hearing today notwithstanding, December 20th is likely the date they have to have a deadline for, that a decision will be made by. They may have to wait a little bit longer for disaster relief across America.
And they need it so desperately. All right, Scott MacFarlane, thank you so much.